Ever since I've taken the whole CIO CISO thing together, I always say there's constant context switching happening, but the best part is now shared resources, shared talent, shared budget has opened up a lot more for us in terms of synergies. From a CIO point of view, we are here to make things simple, enable, and accelerate. And from a CISO point of view, we are here to increase our trust, build a culture of security, and make sure product company is secure. Okay, I often say this security is not a technology problem, it's a business problem. Using that lens helped me articulate risk to the senior management and help them understand what is it that we are trying to do. How are we aligning security goals with business objectives? The previous technologies were where the work gets done, whether it's in cloud or it's in app, and how the processes are going to be orchestrated. Now, in the AI era, it changes because who gets that work done and what value does it bring and faster. And I want, as leaders, that's why I talk about conscious leadership, as leaders, we need to remind people what it means to be human, what it means to be alive, what it means to be living in integration.
All right. Good morning, Aisha. How are you today?
Good. I'm doing very well. Starting my morning with this podcast, so it should be a good start to my day.
Awesome. Welcome to Atomic Conversations. And this is a place where most of these conversations that take place really, bringing thought leadership into AI, cybersecurity, and organizations embracing the disruptive technology that is taking over the enterprises nowadays. And so I'm really thrilled to have you. Welcome to Atomic Conversations the second time.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, talk to you guys about what's happening in the valley and beyond, and share some perspectives.
All right, awesome. So, Aisha, the key thing that we're going through right now, obviously, your role being a dual CIO and CISO, is quite unique compared to many CIOs generally doing, and then there is a security team that is different responsibility. But how do you see this type of a dual CIO CISO role change the way you look at the problems and opportunities, especially given the AI era for your organization? Is there any difference?
Yes, it is different in some ways and it's still similar in many ways, but I'll tell you, it's the best thing happened to me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about other CIOs or CISOs who take on this role and then what do they feel about it. There is chatter on it, but personally, I'll share my experience. When I was only a CISO, I had to do a lot of collaboration on which we still do, but we had to do a lot of collaboration on the other side to make sure IT resources are aligned, budgeting is aligned, timeline. So there were a lot of friction points. Ever since I've taken the whole CIO CISO thing together, I always say there's constant context switching happening, but the best part is now shared resources, shared talent, shared budget has opened up a lot more for us in terms of synergies.
Mhm.
Uh, in simple English, what I tell my team is from a CIO point of view, we are here to make things simple, enable, and accelerate. And from a CISO point of view, we are here to increase our trust, build a culture of security, and make sure product, company is secure. So that gives me the dual lens. Now everything that I'm doing is not an afterthought. My IT and security team sits together. Every project that we discuss, we have the opportunity firsthand to see how can we do it simply and securely. So that's the competitive edge. And I feel like if other people are not thinking about it, they should.
Yeah. And that's great because I didn't have to tee off with you know how this role is really come to be. And obviously, when I first started, mostly on the engineering organization, the security used to be in engineering, and in most of the growth companies. And then when you become a CIO, then you're like, hey, how are you going to manage this with being a compliant? with managing independently for the organization, and how are you going to manage all of that stuff? So I think eventually we centralized all of that under the CIO, and so that is something eventually most organizations are doing nowadays anyway. So to just kind of bring it
Yeah.
all into independence. See, other part is you've had a different career path to come here. You're a career IT and career person to really get into this. And how did that change you to when you got into the treasure data as a CISO CIO? How did that happen? Explain the career trajectory a little bit, and take us through a little bit, Aisha, for the past decade to today.
Man. It's a loaded question. Let me see if I can do justice to it. So I've been almost, well, for the last 20 years, before getting into a CIO gig was mostly on the security side. So major in computer science with business and security back in 2002 when it was brand new, mostly theoretical. One day my professor just asked me, "Hey, are you interested in going into security elective?" And I and I looked at it, I'm like, sure, I'll give it a try. And Lenin, when I went into that class, and the very first concept was CIA, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, it very much felt like detective work. I actually thought, oh my God, I'm sitting in an FBI office and solving all these mysteries. So it was a lot of fun. So from there, I never looked back. Tried doing majoring in cybersecurity. By the time I graduated, I started working for Bank of Montreal. This was the time in 2004 when application security was brand new. And Bank of Montreal, I think, was one of the banking institution who came up with online banking. So at the forefront of seeing what security could do and how we enable consumers, that was the experience that stayed with me. And then I thought I want to do more and more security. From there, I moved to Symantec, stayed there for 4 years, helping them roll out the whole product security, application security, compliance on top, threat and vulnerability management. And then in 2015, Oracle reached out and they were doing OCI, Oracle Cloud for Industries. So they were looking for their first cloud security architect in that organization. And I said, sure, why not? I love challenges, so I went in to do that. From there, in 2019, so I stayed with Oracle for almost 5 years. So in 2019, Treasure Data reached out and they were looking for somebody who can build their security organization starting from compliance. So that's where my journey started. 2 years into it, I became head of information security, then CISO. And then 3 months later, I became CIO as well. Journey has been amazing, but to your point, trajectory, I feel what has happened from an inflection point of view. Um, when I realized that technology leadership isn't about scaling systems, it's actually about people
Mhm.
and clarity.
Yeah.
That's where everything changed for me. And now what I do is I use that lens of shared purpose and business alignment instead of technical advocacy. And because I do that, what I've realized is impact scaled dramatically. Because what happened is one trusted relationship and constantly seeing how IT and security, I often say this, security is not a technology problem, it's a business problem.
Mhm.
And using that lens helped me articulate risk to the senior management and help them understand what is it that we are trying to do. How are we aligning security goals with business objectives, whether it's trust, whether it's assurance, whether it's protecting the product, um, or protecting the company, whatever it is, I am aligning technology objectives to business objectives, and that's where momentum is.
Yeah, I think you've kind of brought an interesting point, which is I think most CISOs and CIOs and including CEOs and CFOs agree that security is not a technology problem. It is a business problem, because everything in business creates that opportunity and vulnerability, because people are the
Mhm.
most vulnerable. and easy to break into rather than systems and applications to some degree, because most of the break-ins are happening through the doors that are open through individual computers and the software they're installing and things like that. And that's why I think security teams are on the edge all the time and trying to basically work with. And that's where the IT security coming together, because most of the endpoint devices is where most
Yeah.
vulnerabilities and phishing and all kinds of things that can happen for people to get into. But I think what's more interesting thing is it takes a leader to drive two different roles, but your leadership style is quite authentic, and also you're a very empathetic leader in terms of how, every time we speak about anything, any topic, there's that element of a personal touch that you bring to your leadership. Like, tell me how you shaped your leadership drive, in really how your teams embrace some of these challenges, because of that.
Yeah. I think the honest answer is um, the conditioning of the world takes over, right? When I say that, look, it has been a journey of my life, which I'm extremely proud of and absolutely in love with. I often say this, I fall in love with myself. Forget about everything else, fall in love with myself. Um, but I would give credit to almost 10, 15 years ago, on surface, from a career point of view, things were looking great. Um, Personally and professionally was doing great in that regard, that I thought there's like nothing would say that, there are signs that I feel something is wrong.
Mhm.
But deep down, I knew that there was craving for more impact and meaning. And no matter what I was doing, I was like, okay, that's fine. But what is the big why? Why am I doing it? What am I changing? How am I moving the needle? Who am I impacting? Those questions were always inside of me. So around, I think, almost 10 years ago, I started this journey where I said, okay, whatever, outside things looking fine, I need to go more inward. So I often say now inward to upward, which is if you really want to think about going upward, the actual journey starts inward. And the other thing I tell my leaders is your leadership is directly proportional to how evolved you are, the inner work that you have done. And that's what I contribute to where I am, the intention, the clarity, the purpose. In simple English, what I would say is this journey has enabled me to see what matters. So, going back to one, clarity, what matters. Number two, it has made me fearless. Actually, Lennon, you were the one who asked me once, define yourself in 6 words.
Yeah, yeah, that.
And it got me thinking. It got me really thinking, like, how do I describe myself in 6 words? Took me a few days to realize because I wanted to do it like intentionally, wholeheartedly. And I came up with those 6 words, which were living intentionally, passionately, fearlessly every day.
There you go. I remember. I remember that. I think there's a reason I ask every leader to kind of, explain themselves in 6 words. That is easy because, it's basically about, really bringing the whole descriptive, about anything that you can learn about a leader in those 6 words. I think it's a Stanford thing that we practice quite a bit. I
Yeah.
really like the way you put it, right? I mean, living life and fearlessly, and also taking risks. I mean, obviously, you're a security person. Most CIOs and CISOs by nature are security or actually risk averse. In the sense, when I say risk averse, in the sense they're avoiding taking risks so that they don't want to
Mm.
put the organization under the risk as much as possible.
Yeah.
But there is a balance between how you think about it. Right now, you're running a data company. It's an AI first type of a situation for you guys, and you're in a high growth ecosystem of a environment. You're running a customer CDP. I mean, there's so many elements of your business that require technology
Yeah.
transformation adoption every single time. That means you always have to think about introducing some sort of a risk without which you cannot really go forward and
Mm.
providing what you're thinking about. How do you bring that risk, um, you know, adoption, whether it is averting or adapting the risk and basically mitigating what is, how do you balance that? Like, what's your, how are you bringing that together at Treasure Data?
Yeah. I mean, let's first be honest with the reality. And I always tell this to my CEO, there is number one, security is never going to be 100%
Yeah.
done, right? There's always going to be something that we may not be looking at. So, not intentionally, unintentionally, whatever the consequences are, there's no 100% security. That's number one. Number two, we need to have our math right, which I often say math right in a sense that, let me explain it this way. I think I wrote recently one article where I said the martyr CISO. A lot of the CISOs had this narrative, I think, at least surrounding myself earlier in my career, seeing many CISOs use a stick rather than carrot. I don't use that. For me, security is part of your DNA.
Yeah, it's an enabler.
Exactly. It needs to be baked into your culture.
Hmm.
In Trust Data, we say we have to do innovation, but not innovation, secure innovation. This is who we are.
Yeah.
Second thing, what I've done is in the organization is um, incentivize people accordingly. So here's what happens in our organization. And when I say organization, meaning Treasure Data, we incentivize our engineers to code securely.
Hmm.
And we incentivize my team, which is IT and security, to enable the business.
Hmm.
Now the incentives have been reversed. So engineers know that they have to code better.
Hmm.
That's what they are going to be incentivized on. And my team has to enable and accelerate that code. So now they work in collaboration. And that's how we continuously weave this culture of security first in Treasure Data.
Yeah.
There's no 100% security. There is that incentivization. And third thing, what I often talk about is um, collaboration, right? Often people talk about my CEO doesn't care about security or my CFO is not giving me the budget. I put the emphasis on CISOs. Have they done a good enough job of articulation that risk
Mm.
from technology to business?
Mm.
If you articulate what is the risk, then one, this idea of unilateral decision making shouldn't be there.
Hmm.
So what I've done is I have a risk committee where I have my CPO, my CTO, and depending on where the risk we are identifying, we bring them into conversations. And until my any risk that is we consider high or critical will not be accepted until my CLO and I chime on it.
Yeah.
So I have created this culture where there are no unilateral conversations.
Yeah.
If CTO feels there is a risk in his organization and he has to be accepting it, he cannot accept that risk on his own.
Yeah.
He has to come to the committee, he has to talk to us, and then we have to agree. So what happens is through that collaboration and not having a unilateral conversation, now everyone is in the loop and understand here is a risk tolerance. And based on that risk tolerance, are we going up or down? And if we have to go up, let's talk about AI.
Hmm.
There is a lot of experimentation happening. I can tell you this right now. If our risk tolerance is moderate, we are taking a little bit more risk.
Hmm.
And we should. But what is the framework that I use for that risk tolerance when it goes up? What is the value we are adding, which is capability? What is the value we are adding to the business? What is the readiness of this new thing that we are bringing into our ecosystem? There is a possibility that we are taking more risk, but we are still not ready to execute on it.
Yeah.
So do we have the right controls in place?
Yeah.
And third, but not least, is the adoption. And adoption isn't only about usage. Adoption is training, upskilling, helping people understand how this AI is adding new threat landscape. And this threat landscape has shared responsibility on users as well as security teams. So, are we prepared with value, readiness, and adoption conversations?
Yeah, I mean, you just answered my follow-up question that was going to be obviously, addressing risks and addressing the governance and compliance at the same time, and keeping innovation as a positive thing. It's like a balancing three, four different things at once. And it's not easy because you have to kind of balance all of those in order to really take forward. And that requires collaboration amongst your legal officer, your financial officer, and your CTO as a technology, and then CIO and CISO. Eventually you bring it into the panel where CEO might be saying, hey, okay, we're going to have to go with this. And there's a lot of that. I think that constant pull and push and tension as well as partnership is really what it is. And I think that's really important. And AI is a transformational platform or a tool or a technology that right now you're introducing into. But I think one most important thing that is happening nowadays with most of the CIOs in the conversations that I'm having is AI um, all about experience? Because technology advantage for most of the companies using AI to do something is only going to take you, as we all felt like cloud is a technology advantage. If you move to cloud, you go faster, right?
Mm.
Um, and but then what? Like, what is really the differentiator for you as a business, as a product, whatever you're building? So for you, where do you see AI from both your organization's employees and how you're adopting that internally for the purposes of enabling them be productive in that
Mm.
aspect? And then I'll talk about,
Yeah.
how are you thinking also, because you have to also see how this is going to impact your customers from the product standpoint. So why don't we start with, because the most important thing for a CIO, CISO is make sure that employees are protected and also adopting the most latest, greatest technology. And what is your take on enabling them?
Yeah. The reason I'm pausing because it's a long question. I'm trying to structure in my head first.
Yeah. Let's simplify in a way that what is your thought leadership around, or even a how you're thinking to enable your employees to adopt AI internally as a business.
Yeah, I want to answer the first question first, like what's changed with AI? There were technologies before as well. So I think the biggest difference that I see, yes, there was cloud, there was mobile, there was like all the other technologies before, but something is different about AI. And the way I see AI is, let me explain from the other technologies. The previous technologies were where the work gets done, whether it's in cloud or it's in app, and how the processes are going to be orchestrated. That's the previous era. Now, in the AI era, it changes because what it's changed is who gets that work done, who, and what value does it bring and faster. And when I say who, that's the differentiator because look, up until any technologies we had, humans had to do a lot of the grind work. With AI, humans are still in the loop, but now it's like we have virtual workforce. We have agents who are coming in and they are doing a lot more for us. So from my point of view, it's the capability multiplier, and that's why it's sticking.
Hmm.
And people who are not going to leverage this phase, they are creating capability debt.
Hmm.
So that's number one. Number two, what I've done in Treasure Data, we are on year two of our AI journey. Um, And I am very thrilled to see where we are and where we are going. A year and a half ago, Lenin, the conversation was who should lead AI, what should be the ambition, how big the ambition,
Yeah.
who will be the responsible for the product and the internal.
Hmm.
We sorted all those things internally. But what I've done is I took the lead in Treasure Data and I said, I will lead the AI journey. And here's why. On the product side, obviously, my CPO is responsible for introducing AI within the product. But even to give product what product needs, because CIOs are responsible for enablement and acceleration, we are bringing that thought leadership.
Hmm.
So the first thing I did was mapping our ambition. Who are we going to be? And we decided as a company, and let me just explain a little bit. Gartner did a beautiful job on creating that mapping, which said if you are someone who is looking for game changing AI, you are going to be on the customer side. But if you are someone who's pursuing productivity, efficiency gains, then you are going to be on the um, internal productivity side, which is CX, IT, HR, finance, all your G&A accounts. And we decided as a company we want to be all,
Mhm.
and that's why I came up with the term AI first, AI everywhere.
Mhm.
Once we agreed on that ambition, the next thing I did, formed a
Mhm.
committee of the people who were excited about AI, bringing thought leadership, people who wanted to do a lot of experimentation, and also business translators. And when I say business translators, marketing person, salesperson, accounting person, all these people who understand their domain very well, and they can help us identify where the use cases are.
Yeah.
So then through that committee, what we did, we released the early policy saying, here's, the good, bad, and ugly. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to stick to. Second thing we did, we created operational processes. How are we going to bring AI for experimentation, and how security and legal will get involved in privacy? And third thing that I'm very proud of, we did that was intentionally because we wanted to upskill everyone in treasury.
Mhm.
It's a new skill set.
Yeah.
So we created AI champion program, which means every business unit will allow two headcount, front and back. And these are the people that we will train on technology that we will bring in, the training, the adoption, everything. And then they take that information back to their business units and then train the rest of the people.
Yeah.
So now in the maturity curve, we are pretty high. Now, let me tell you, in just a year and a half, we have identified 160 use cases
Mhm.
where we think we can leverage AI to create more capabilities.
Got it.
Now, the reality is ambition is there, but I feel AI technology itself isn't there.
Yeah.
So it's a waiting game now. Every time a new connector comes in, a new API is being introduced, we are leveraging and building those use cases as fast as we can.
Yeah. So now you brought in, I think you beautifully addressed both ecosystems being an epicenter of AI. You wanted to bring it across the organization. And obviously, you're also thinking about democratizing that, right? To a
Mhm.
point where users that are going to use, because, AI is like a super tool that you will give. It's like an additional capability beyond the human capability. So then, if you were to give it to somebody, they have to be able to use it to do their job better. So there's this
Yeah.
notion of, um, is this going to, kill my job? Is this going to make me look, dumb? All of that. So I think there is this fear of adoption. Obviously, one of the things, we're trying to kind of balance between
Yeah.
adopting, because the difference between AI versus other technologies is, everybody was also basically saying, hey, are they going to kill jobs? This has been a notion that is going on for decades. Every time a new technology, people fear about, hey, it's going to kill jobs. But AI is apparently a bit different because it's automating a lot of the manual work, and that is really creating a fear in adoption. Say, okay, if you automate my job, what am I going to do? So now the question comes in for you and everybody who's implementing this, like, how do you address that?
Yeah.
Along, with how are you balancing the cost of doing business because you're now introducing a
Mhm.
new technology? It is cheap, and you have to justify,
Yeah.
with 150 use cases, like, where is the ROI going to come from? How are you thinking through this?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm not scared, and scared like personally, it's not, I'm talking about myself. But I also don't like it when people talk about this is going to take anyone's job. In fact, what I tell my organization is AI will not take your job. A person with AI will definitely take your job.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what I'm trying to say in that statement is this is the new normal,
Hmm.
and I don't want to leave anyone behind. So when I started this journey, that level setting was for the entire organization. I'm not giving AI to technical people only or to security or R&D only. I made AI available to every single person in the organization because again, First and foremost, it is amplifying what you are doing. So even if you're not building new capabilities, it's still amplifying. You summarize you're not wasting time recording your meeting minutes. There's so many even easy things that you can do, and it amplifies your work. Second tier comes to where you now start increasing capabilities. And often, I mean, look at any organization. I will talk about mine. There were always so many projects that I wanted to do, but we didn't have bandwidth. Now, what's happening is as AI is taking over and doing business as usual work, the busy work, automating the manual work, my people are actually realizing the time that they are saving, they can go up the food chain and start doing more strategic thinking. Things that were sitting in our parking lot for 2 years that we were never able to address. Now we actually have the bandwidth.
Hmm.
So that's on the professional front. But because I live very intentionally, I want to tell you about from a personal point of view as
Yeah.
well. I also tell everyone in the organization, which is my hope, and that's why I used the earlier word that I'm not scared. Actually, I am excited with AI. Len and I have a feeling we as humans have come up with a lot of technologies every few decades.
Hmm.
I truly feel maybe this time around as humans, we might get it right. And here's why. It's going to be a philosophical or a spiritual answer, but at the end of the day, humans did not come on this planet only to work in a professional sense. We have come here to paint, to learn, to grow, to be the artist that we wanted to be, to, I mean, whatever, like your hobbies are. You want to be a chef or you want to be a farmer. I love a lot of other things outside of my tech career as well. AI has actually enabled me now in my own personal life, has given me the time back that I always used to crave for. And now I'm pursuing other hobbies as
So
well.
you become more productive independently and also
Absolutely.
individually. So I think this is a great point, right? So one of the most important thing about AI is it's giving you time back that you were
Yeah,
always okay. So that's number one. But then you have to use the time to do something.
wisely.
If fear sets in is when you don't have anything else but work in your life, and then you automatically say, like, "Oh man, what am I going to do with my time? And if I don't have to work, my job's going to be gone." I think what is important for people now to really think about, because we've worked hard enough for 3 decades to really make technology work for us, right? Now, why don't we make, right,
Yeah,
our own self to go do something that,
absolutely.
right?
I mean, as a mom, um, working with a global team, my schedule was all over the place. AI has given me time back now that I put back into my kids' extracurricular activities. That's just one area. I love other hobbies as well. I have time for those. But this is what I tell people. At the end of the day, we did not only come here to do the professional work. Professional work is one expression of us.
Hmm.
We are multidimensional beings, and being multidimensional, there are other desires and hobbies for your own growth. I mean, for example, as I said, I'm going more inward. It gives me time, even if I'm looking for meditation techniques, or if I'm looking for, like how do I align my energy centers or whatever. I get that information. I put together a plan in place. I have an agent telling me what I need to be doing, when I need to be doing. And we didn't have that before.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure when people talk about when if people are scared, this is again, no matter which technology comes, there's survival instinct, right? And I want as leaders, that's why I talk about conscious leadership. As leaders, we need to remind people what it means to be human, what it means to be alive, what it means to be living in integration.
Mhm. So I think the AI for mental health, I'm voting for that one. I think the point is that if you're working tirelessly all the time, obviously, as you know, IT and security are like a around the clock jobs. There is no reprieve for attackers because they would be sitting with a coffee cup in different parts of the world, and you're basically sleeping. It won't work, and you need to have
Yeah.
teams also working in the same way. So that means you need to protect all the time, and you need to also support your employees that are global all the time. So it's a 24/7 shop as a business, no matter what. So in that scenario, and you have a global team and you're a global responsibility, how are you going to then get some time back so that you can spend that time on a quality of life,
Mhm.
family, become healthy,
Yeah.
mental health, physical health, which you've been not taking care of. But that's really something is not set in yet because everybody is still feeling like, okay, this is going to be cost. This is about optimization. This is about figuring, how I'm going to become a billion to $2 billion company. So I think the drive in human, aspects is now fighting with each other on how do you balance growth versus a healthy organization. Where do you see that, coming as a topic in the near future? I mean, I'm already seeing that coming in the conversation.
Yeah.
Like at some point, most of the organizations are making decisions based on how much money they will be able to save and how much money they will be able to make, as opposed to how does AI help our organization become healthier and happier, which could potentially lead to both.
The answer is we need the right leaders.
Hmm.
Number one, we need the leaders who can set the right tone. That's why I told you earlier, the inflection point for me was when realizing it's all about people and clarity.
Yeah,
If leaders don't have the clarity, they cannot have these honest conversations.
yeah.
Now, as a leader for my organization, my hope is number one, we do awesome work that we are passionate about, and we do it smartly. I tell everyone, I don't need hard workers, I need smart workers. If I can do my task that used to take me 4 hours, now I can do it in 1 hour. Why can't you?
Yeah.
So we have to ingrain this in our workforce that working hard used to be a conditioning that we need to get over. One of the things that I often talk about is as humans, we need to unlearn
Mhm.
everything that we were not supposed to learn
Again,
what we were meant to learn.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, the as the technology is changing, you'd have to unlearn because obviously you cannot really, fit a square peg in a round hole, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta really figure out how do you bring that, and I think that is where the responsible AI concept, like we're talking about, how do you do it responsibly in a way that it actually takes your organization moving forward in a healthy
Mhm.
manner, as opposed to in a manner
Yeah.
that could actually undermine its ability to grow.
So I'll talk about two things. First, I want to ground this conversation in reality
Mhm.
as what I have been seeing at the forefront of what we are doing in treasure data. Because we are leveraging, and this is one area I'm talking about, in one area where I'm leveraging AI. Lenin, I'm not making up number, this is the reality.
Yeah.
Only after introducing that agent in security operations.
Mhm.
My employee used to spend his cycles with limited systems visibility, triaging, alerting, um, limited systems with limited visibility and only addressing critical and high
Mhm.
because he didn't have the bandwidth to go all the way up to medium, low, or even in other categories. With bringing in agent in security operations only, so far, we have automated 60% of our security operations level one and level two tickets.
It's awesome.
And that is the work requires 24/7 because incident can happen in UK, can happen in Japan, can happen in India, can happen in Canada or US for that sake. And before AI, I had one person in UK, one in Japan, and one in US to have that coverage. Now, with this agent coming in, this agent is working 24/7.
7. Yeah, exactly.
And so level one, level two has been taken care of.
Mhm.
And now that same employee who had to wake up middle of the night, addressing things, collaborating, of course there is a toll, right?
Mhm.
This person now doesn't have to do any level one, level two, and we are moving him up the food chain
Yeah,
to level three.
yeah.
So his schedule is getting better.
Mhm.
We are talking about mental health.
Yeah.
Now, clarity. Clarity is as a leader, we are seeing what needs to be done and how do we build better capabilities.
Mhm.
And second, piece that I want to talk about is identity in itself, identity of one being. This idea that AI is going to come and take my job. Here's what I often tell my team. Today, if I'm a CIO and a CISO, I love what I do and I do it passionately.
Mhm.
I'm not doing it for fame, for money, for anything else. That those are byproduct of my passion.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, if I become, because now AI has enabled me to do a lot more things, and if I decide tomorrow if I become a farmer, I will still be the best farmer out there.
Yeah. So do whatever you
So
do in the
no
best
one else.
110%.
So I
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel like this mental health issue is not only specific to AI. I want to actually take a step further and help people realize a lot of us, at least in the tech, I feel, we associate our identity with our professional work.
Mhm.
And I want to detach that to your passion, your purpose, and your calling.
Mhm.
And when you have that, no matter where you fall, professional work is just one expression of you. And once you bring that tenacity that I am who I am and I do everything with that grace and with that passion,
Yeah.
magic happens.
Yeah. I mean, I used to say, don't make it a job, make it a career. Right? So if you make it a job, you're only there to do what the job demands. But if you make it a career, you're thinking beyond what it is, and you're bringing the passion. You're
Okay?
basically bringing a lot of things that basically propel you to be successful and grow. And I think that is really important. And so every employee in an organization with a great leadership, it's more about a career than it is about a job. I think that's really important. Obviously, um, there are a lot of conscious leadership decisions, and there are a lot of things that most CIOs, CISOs that are going through this journey. One of the things that comes to mind is what worked for one organization doesn't work for another organization the same exact way. Uh,
Mm.
but then we continue to talk to each other and ask, like, what's working in your organization for you? Which technology is doing better compared to the other? Because it does matter. CIOs and CISOs talk to each other and collaborate on, some of these tools and technologies that are making an impact, that are differentiating themselves. How's that playing in your role, like with you, when you speak to your colleagues and your peers? How is their impact on you and your impact on them?
It's first of all, it's a beautiful thing to have people who can have honest conversations about what's happening in the world in the domains that we are in. So I'm very fortunate to have amazing thought leaders in my circle who are shaping industries in their own world, in their own organization. So one, deeply grateful for that and heavily relied on that that circle of thought leadership.
Yeah,
I mean, I was in an event last week where we were talking about three of the leaders from the Bay Area, and I happened to meet them in New York, and we were there for the event. It was all about AI, like enterprise AI. What is it going to be? And there we talked about how we are seeing. Number one, it's year two, so it's not like we are starting from scratch, and all three of us at least are more mature in our AI curve. So it's like, okay, so we have our basics done. We have upskilling going on. We have the basic technology that has given people the ability to search, chat, and create some easy agents. And let me explain. When we say easy agents, those are not agents; those are prompts.
yeah. Exactly.
I'm still waiting for agents who can mimic like humans,
Yeah,
data reasoning, repeatability, explainability, auditability. Those are the agents, autonomous agents that I'm talking about. We haven't seen them yet.
yeah,
Even if people are saying that they are building autonomous agent, they don't have those properties. So we were talking about our baseline is covered. What is next? And it was beautiful to witness that um, there's desire and excitement, and many of us feel that we are ready for the next level in our evolution, which is we do not want the easy things now. We want agents who can come in and not only one agent doing one program, multiple agents are talking to each other
mhm,
and understanding the context and creating intelligence on
yeah,
it, right? So that's the next frontier that some of us are talking about. Which tool, which platform, where do we have gaps? How do we connect things together?
yeah,
Um, and I'm actually, I don't want to take names right now, but as we speak, I am in the evaluation process comparing three different platforms to say the first tool that I had served us well. It was needed when we were starting our journey.
Hmm.
Now, the second frontier is who is actually going to give us the real stuff that can make the biggest difference in terms of capabilities.
Hmm.
And honestly speaking, Lennon, I don't think there is a clear winner yet.
Hmm.
Different tools have different strengths and capabilities,
Yes.
but I'm thinking 6 months to 1 year, we'll have some direction
Yeah.
of who the top three contenders
I think
are.
you kind of walked me right into my next question, which was pretty much that, right? Obviously, we're all deploying agents,
Yeah.
and as we've rightly said, we're using these agents, these AI capabilities, to really augment some repetitive tasks. Most of the
Mhm.
things mundane. You've achieved almost 60%. Most of our customers at Atomic Work that they use are all seeing at least 60% ticket deflection rate outside within 1 year, with an ROI, justification, productivity aspects, and then things like that. Then what would happen when you start introducing agents across the ecosystem? It's almost like having a new human equivalent of a machine doing the work. Um, but you still need supervising capabilities to figure out those agents. They're nothing but a level one, level two, or whatever level of expertise that you think you're introducing them to doing the
Yeah.
work. The democratization of these agents means there will be a sprawl of these agents, just like how SaaS applications keep coming in, and eventually we ended up reining that in and then building an ecosystem of granting them access, removing them because there's security aspects, governance
Yeah.
aspects comes in. So there's a lot of this concern starts piling up, right? I mean, okay, now we have like 10 agents to 100 agents to 2,000 agents pretty quickly. What would happen for you as a CISO CIO? What are your thought process around? How are you thinking about, like you said, it's going to take about another 6 months to 1 year.
Yeah.
But then, as I wanted to give a simple a parallel here is that as we already drawn a parallel between an agent being a human equivalent in doing some of the repetitive work they're taking care of, if that particular agent stops working for whatever reason, because there are technologies, it means they can stop working or they're not going to do the job up to the par of what you're expecting. That can happen. The idea of augmenting a human capability with a machine capability is to really empower or get a better result, not for a result that is poorer than what a human could do. In that
Yeah.
scenario, your expectations are high, that AI should be doing better job. But in reality, as you know, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
It is getting there every day, every faster. But then with introducing these agents, if they stop working, the amount of work that actually creates on the number of people that you're thinking of reducing, because now AI is actually doing this,
Yeah.
the reliability, the performance, all of this comes into play. The amount of support that you think you would end up having to plan for if 10 agents stop behaving the way they're supposed to, how does the human get involved?
Yeah.
How are they going to troubleshoot and solve that problem for a group of employees that are dependent on that agent?
Yeah.
Servicing that management of managing the whole ecosystem, because you're not actually removing the work, you're basically moving, shifting the work how it is done today from a human who is doing it to enabling them to do other things and managing that while you're automating this, but the work is still there,
Yeah.
the activity is still there. You're not necessarily reducing it, you're actually increasing it. How do you see that servicing of these agents and the humans as a collaborators
Yeah.
in an enterprise?
Yeah. I feel when I said originally we are taking up the food chain, we are AI jobs, well, the traditional jobs may transform into AI specialized jobs. So there is a life cycle we are talking about.
Yeah.
First thing what I want to say is, in order for us to get to a point where we have multiple agents in any organizations and across the board, we have, I don't know, thousands and more than 1,000 agents in one organization. That is going to be a reality. And for that, we need to have the proper governance on top. And we are already discussing that. But again, we can't go too far as things are still building. So I am also in the midst of figuring out what does that look like. So I don't have the exact framework right now. But it comes down to few things. One, the data governance structure. Number one, the layer we have. How are we putting controls in place from access to auditability, from explainability? How do we make sure these agents, we can track back what actions they took, and if we have to reverse, we can understand, like we can go back in that audit
Fail.
sequence and see what happened. The explainability, how are they reasoning, was what were the factors considered. So we have to make sure as we are building these products or these agents from a product point of view, these things are being considered from a threat landscape. So we need to do a lot of work as a community, Lenin, one, to build agents with these real factors in. Then CISOs are responsible for putting better data governance structure on top from an access control point of view. And then the third layer I'm seeing is going to be life management of agents. That I feel maybe in its own category, a new type of jobs. People coming in and they know how any specific agent, medium, specialized, master agents work. And behind the scene, they know their brains. And if something goes wrong, they will be able to look at the whole audit cycle and see what happened, why it happened. But they're always going to be human in the loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my take. And I think industry is going to shift. Jobs are going, but new jobs are coming, and people should train for that.
Yeah. And so I think the part of the it's coming down back into the people, the culture,
Mhm.
adoption, abilities, fear. I mean, there's common words that are percolating in the AI ecosystem right now. Is like, hey, I've got too many agents. I've got people fear afraid of their jobs, and I've got risk, and then I've got compliance, and I have auditability, I have governance. But AI is not only demanding that you need to change the way you do business also, right? It's because what we have done the past 2 decades is adopting whatever is possible to get to where we are. But what AI is now doing is like a hockey stick, not even hockey stick in a way, it's like a very fast way of adoption in a which that it requires a lot more guardrails, but also at the same time, you need to curate the content. You need to give the context. You need to give the intent, the reasoning capabilities with your data. That requires you to prepare not only the existing information that you have in multiple places, how are you going to then bring it all together in a way to make sure the right information is given so that the agent is actually productive, not giving misinformation that could
Yeah.
potentially lead to more tickets.
I'll tell you, more than ever before, this notion that we used to have garbage in, garbage out is true in the AI world.
Mhm. It's even
If
more.
you haven't done a good job of data quality, you are not going to get the real outcomes you want. So yes, all of that is true, but it comes back to again all. Look, I often say this. If you look at our technology world, we have resources, we have intelligence, we have money, we have everything that you can think of. At the same time, there's fear, there's anxiety, there's depression, there's burnout, and a lot of that again goes back to I wish more leaders can be real leaders
Mhm.
and talk to people about how to overcome these challenges. Going back to the point that I was making earlier, there is a systematic way of isolating the two pieces. This is work, and we have to do it right, but it needs to come from your self worth, passion, purpose, and then you have to merge the two.
Mhm. So I have an interesting insight that I came across when I was at Gartner Symposium this time. And one of the things that they blasted out even in the ethos and then actually presented this. CIOs are the second most trusted leaders in the organization. Guess who's the first
Now,
one? Now, now, because of AI,
CISO,
because of AI.
yes.
So is that
I was about to say, if people are afraid, I don't know about other people, being a CIO before the AI world, it was quite boring, to be honest.
yeah? But, so by the way, there is there is one person who carries the trust on their head. written.
So
And if they are not, the organization cannot really even exist or be what it is. And that one person probably we will not be able to change because that is their job. But it is not CISO. Who else could it be?
it's not CIO.
CIO is the second most.
Second one,
Yeah,
okay.
just a guess. And you will agree when I say yes. That is.
It's a C level, right?
Yeah,
Trust, CTO.
no, CFO. Because
I would say that.
CFOs have to be very accurate and trusted because they are
And
keeping the organization honest in every angle, from the CEO's vision of what they want to do to the rest of the organization basically trying to do what they're doing, trying to keep everything towards the numbers. They
yeah.
can't make up. They have to show the things, and that's why there is one person you can always trust is going to be the guy who's keep you honest, his numbers, and that numbers guy is the CFO, and that's it. There's nobody else that can replace.
With you. I agree with you. And I think I'll tell you, my relationship with my CFO is amazing for that reason because he talks about evidence in numbers and I talk about in business outcomes. So, for example, he asks me, how's the security doing? And I said, first of all, there's no 100% security.
Yeah,
Let's be clear on that. Number two, with what we have in terms of, like the risk tolerance we have agreed to in the organization, for that, we have made the right investment.
yeah,
And my conversations with him are all about numbers. So here is the investment we have made based on our risk tolerance. Now, if the risk is going up, and I'll give you a real example that we will be talking in a few weeks, as with AI experimentation is going up and our risk tolerance is moderate. That means our risk tolerance needs to go up as well. And that gap requires investment. So when CISOs are saying we are not getting money, my ask is articulate the risk you are introducing in the organization and then ask your CFO if you are a number guy, tell me how do I go from moderate to addressing this gap if there is not going to be an investment?
yeah. No, I agree. So let's go a little bit into personal leadership and style and other things. And so obviously we all make mistakes. We do things that we might regret. I have a philosophy: if you harp on what has happened in the past, you can't really see the future straight, and then in a way that we're thinking. Are there any mistake or lesson, tough lesson that you've learned that is actually made you lead differently today?
Oh, Lenin, many, many. You know, like that's how you learn. First of all, I believe there are no failures, those are lessons. And I've learned a lot of lessons through those mishaps. But when we talk about from a leadership point of view, one of the things that I keep even teaching now my leaders as well, delegation.
Hmm.
And I talk about delegation, let me explain in two different contexts. Being a perfectionist earlier, I wanted to do things a certain way. And I would believe that here is a vision I have, and I get that vision, and it will take me more time to explain. Let me just go and do it. I was first a bottleneck for everyone and slowing everyone else around me. Um, so I changed that. I needed to trust myself more to say I trust others equally,
Hmm.
and I need to delegate. And that's the beautiful thing. Once I started giving people more that I trust you with this, go ahead, take the lead. Even if you're making mistake, we'll figure things out. Speed increased, velocity increased, trust in each other increased, and beautiful things started happening. And what I realized in the process, I started building more leaders. So delegation is the first thing. So even in my team, when I see somebody's trying to do too much, I tell them now upfront, I have made that mistake. Don't be that person. Learn to delegate.
Yeah,
That's how you're going to scale.
that's
So
great.
that's one of the,
So
yeah.
one of the things that I've learned about is that if you're building leadership in your organization, there's always people ask. So if you don't ask, you don't get a promotion. This is something that there's a reason why you don't actually promote people just because they're capable. So my way of thinking is if anybody comes like, hey, I don't want a promotion, I said like, who's going to do your job? And then the first reaction is like, what do you mean? I'm not going to do my job if I get promoted. I'm like, no, but the point is, if you do the same job and get promoted, what is the point? So so how are you going to become a leader to pull up somebody in your team to basically do the job that you're doing today so that you can go and do other things that we should be able to do?
Yeah.
So I
You
think the
said
idea
something.
is cultivating that into the team and say,
Yeah.
when you come there, it's very important.
Yeah. This is the beautiful thing that you said. The way I say it to my team is, I have my stars, and I'm not promoting you until you have your stars. So
Mhm.
show me who are your stars, and then we'll talk about promotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you become a promoting a leader and doing things, and a manager versus a leader is generally it's important for people to be looking up to you, to want to be working with you, and so that you as a leader, so that means they feel like, hey, I'm in safe. This person, I like him. I want to work with him. I think there's got to be that. So that respect need to be there. And obviously, when you're coming from a flat organization, trying to create a leadership hierarchy, eventually as organizations grow, it becomes a challenge. And I think we want that culture to be built, and it doesn't come unless otherwise you step back and do things that you typically do as
Right.
an individual contributor.
Let me add one more thing here as a leader that I have started doing much better now.
Mhm.
Again, the conditioning was look for IQ. What I've started doing in the last few years, and I can tell you a day and night difference in retention and bringing quality people. And now I see I have a knack for finding out talent. Um, EQ.
Yeah,
We put a lot more emphasis on people's IQ. I've changed my strategy. I look for people with higher EQ, and things have become like I tell my leaders, I'm so glad that you are in treasury data working for the IT and security organizations because you bring such calm clarity that amplifies everything that we do.
yeah. I think you've already kind of addressed the one thing that I was gonna ask you, like, what's the one thing that you would actually advise other CIO CISOs? I think when you're especially things that you've learned, I think you've just said like EQ, like you're looking for that when you're hiring because you want to build that culture. I think that's a great advice for people looking to bring people in their organizations or trying to promote,
Yeah.
because skills are expected. Without skills, you don't have a job. But becoming a leader is a different thing that requires not only authenticity, but also requires emotional quotient
Intelligence.
and qualities that as a leader you need to have.
Yeah.
I think I agree.
I am not a fan of letting people go. First, I like to hire the best people and then help them grow. But every time, Lennon, if somebody had to go, it was exactly for that reason. They had high IQ but moderate EQ.
Yeah, yeah. So it looks like unless you have a EQ, you can't work with Aisha at this point. So Aisha, this has been so much fun. Every time I speak with you, I learn few things, and I also feel that our conversations are always about people centric, and technology becomes part of it. And
Mhm.
we kind of talked about security, governance, AI, people, process, business. I mean, you name it. We've touched every part, and that's why I like about having these atomic conversations. It's all about an enterprise thriving, driving change and adoption. I think we're all in this doing different ways, but ultimately our goal is to really build the best organization and best people. And I truly enjoy every time I speak with you.
Yes, pleasure to be here. I had a great time talking to you, and everything that you said, I feel the same way. Our conversations are always multidimensional, so I enjoy them.
All right, thank you so much.